vanachari Yamunatira vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishwapad Paramahamsa Pujai Shtotra Shata Shri Srimad Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to the Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, entitled Status Quo, Chapter 25, The Glories of Devotional Service, and Text 3. Yad yat vidate Bhagavan Swachandatmamaya Tani me Shadaya Nasya Kirtanyanyanukirtaya Yad yad vidate Bhagavan Swachandatmamaya Tani me Shadaya Danasya Kirtanyanyanukirtaya Yad yad vidate Bhagavan Swachandatmamaya Tani me Shadaya Kirtanyanyanukirtaya Yat whatever Vidate he performs Bhagavan the personality of Godhead Swachanda Atma full of self-desire Atma Maya by his internal potency Tani all of them me to me Shadhadanasya faithful Kirtanyani worthy of praise Anukirtaya please describe Therefore, please precisely describe all the activities and pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal potency. Purport. The word anukirtya is very significant. Anukirtya means to follow the description, not to create a concocted mental description, but to follow. Shanaka Rishi requested Sutta Goswami to describe what he had actually heard from his spiritual master, Shukadeva Goswami, about the transcendental pastimes the Lord manifested by his internal energy. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has no material body, but he can assume any kind of body by his supreme will. That is made possible by his internal energy. So I'll just read one more. Sutuvacha dvapayana sakastvan tvaevam matrayo bhagavang stata prahidam viduram pita anvikshyam pradito ditaha. Sri Sutta Goswami said, the most powerful sage Maitreya was a friend of Vyasadeva. Being encouraged and pleased by Vidura's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows. Purport. Questions and answers are very satisfactorily dealt with when the inquirer is bona fide and the speaker is also authorized. Here Maitreya is considered a powerful sage, and therefore he is also described as Bhagavan. This word can be used not only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but for anyone who is almost as powerful as the Supreme Lord. Maitreya is addressed as Bhagavan because he was spiritually far advanced. He was a personal friend of Dvaipayana Vyasadeva, a literary incarnation of the Lord. Maitreya was very pleased with the inquiries of Vidura because they were the inquiries of a bona fide advanced devotee. Thus Maitreya was encouraged to answer. When there are discourses on transcendental topics between devotees of equal mentality, the questions and answers are very fruitful and encouraging. Om Ganatavidandasya Gananjana Shivakaya Chikshudam Yena Tasma Shidabinamha Kam Karivachalam Pangam Mangalate Yakapatam Vande Shiviram Vitanam Vancha Kapadabishta Kripasan Devacha Patitanam Bhavani Vaishnavi Bharamaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vaitagadadhar Shivasadi Bhagavatam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'll just read the translations again. Therefore, please precisely describe all the activities and pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal potency. Sri Sutta Goswami said, the most powerful sage, Maitreya, was a friend of Vyasadeva. Being encouraged and pleased by Vidura's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows. So there's a nice or wonderful verse from, I'm just trying to, it's the Mundaka Upanishad, which probably no one will read in this life. But sometimes verses are quoted from different scriptures from our spiritual teachers or acharyas. So it's, maybe someone's familiar with it, but I'll just read it. Nayam atma pravachanena labhyo namedasa na bahuna shutena yam eva shas vinute tena labhyas tasyaisha atma virnute tunum swam. You feel? Vrinute tunum swam. So this is an important verse for Vaishnavas or aspiring Vaishnavas, or for us to kind of meditate on and know and understand, or at least try to understand. It says, the Supreme Lord is not obtained by expert explanations, by vast intelligence, or even by much hearing. He is obtained only by one whom he himself chooses. To such a person he manifests his own form. So practically, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right, Bhakti Amama Vijanati, he's known by devotional service. So that's how Krishna is known. So if we want to know Krishna, then we cannot depend on our even even formulas, you could say, that are actually part of Krishna consciousness, but if we don't do them in the proper way, or we don't do them in the right mentality, then they won't produce that fruit. They won't produce the fruit of understanding Krishna or getting close to Krishna. Just like observance of brahmacharya, or living in a temple, for example, or any stage of life. It's not that simply by adopting that particular mode of living or that stage of life does one become necessarily purified, but is by adopting that mode of life and following the principles of that mode of life that one becomes purified, with the aim of understanding Krishna and pleasing Krishna. Or else, there's so many fools who put on saffron or don't put on saffron or whatever it may be. There's many people who just externally adopt but don't actually follow and don't try to follow the principles. So yeah, we always have to consider that it's not assured that simply by us chanting or us doing this or us doing that or us not doing this or not doing that that we actually attain the goal. But it's by very carefully following with the aim of pleasing Krishna and the aim of being purified that we actually reach the goal. And as it's saying in the first purport, that to follow. So in Kali Yuga, that's actually very difficult to follow. For people, it's difficult. We see practically, right? Amongst our peers, amongst whoever it may be, it's very difficult. And there's classes, most people actually, there's classes, the large percentage of the people actually refuse to follow. With great, devotion and enthusiasm, they refuse to follow. They refuse to follow the reformatory process, right? Because after all, this material world, the whole idea is it's supposed to be a place of reformation. But if people don't want to follow, and they're refusing to follow, then there's no reformation happening. Just like if someone's an alcoholic, no one has to raise their hands here. I don't think anybody was, but you have the AA meetings, right? Alcohol Anonymous, right? My name is George, and I'm alcoholic, and whatever. It's a good. Jai George. Oh, hi, George. Okay. Sometimes people say it, anyways. But the point is, someone may be an alcoholic, but if they refuse to follow the reformatory process, then they will remain an alcoholic. That's pretty logical, right? That's pretty logical. I don't think there's much disagreement with that. So similarly, if we, or if people in general, although within the Vaishnav world, you could say, although so close to, in many ways so close to Krishna, but if we refuse to follow the reformatory process, then yeah, we're not going to be reformed, and we're not going to go, there's no question of the spiritual world without reformation. We have to, and the point is we have to try. And we see that the reason why it is so difficult, there's many reasons why it's difficult, but the main reason why it's so difficult for people, and a lot of them can't follow, is because there's too many desires in the heart. There's too many desires. Just like, for example, we're chanting our japa every day, right? That's an everyday practice. 16 rounds every day we're chanting, or however many we're chanting. We may chant more. We shouldn't chant less, but we may be chanting more. But we see that, okay, well, why can't we concentrate, right? Why can't we concentrate? If we're in that category of not being able to concentrate, why can't we concentrate? We cannot concentrate because we've got other stuff within our consciousness that is blocking, you could say, the holy name from entering, from us actually meditating on the holy name.
And if we really analyze, it will go back to this idea of the jiva, or the soul, wanting to be the, what is it, Bhoktadam Yogatapasam Sarvalokam Maheshanam, right? The controller, right? Enjoyer and owner of things. We're thinking, oh well, whatever. Our thoughts may enjoying this, enjoying that, controlling this, controlling that, owning this, owning that, right? People may be trying to drop, I don't know, thinking about shopping. I want to buy this, whatever it is. Or the classic, right, thing is during japa is that somebody's thinking of, right, Prabhupada mentions in his books many times, money and women, right? Then that's obviously the desire to enjoy in a material way. So this is what we face, or this is what people face, that there's so many desires within themselves that it becomes difficult to follow. But for those of us who have decided that, okay, yes, I want to follow the reformatory process, I want to attain love of Krishna, I want to go to the spiritual world, this is what I'm signing up for, then this is very good, and this means we have some hope. Whereas the people who refuse to follow, they have no hope. What's their hope? They refuse to follow. So we have to be very careful that, although we're in this category now of desiring to follow and trying to follow and following to the best degree we can, we have to be very careful that we don't fall back into the category of those who refuse to follow the reformatory process, because many people do. I mean, I've been in the temple for 10 years now, and I saw a lot of brahmacharis come through these doors. I saw a lot of brahmacharis go out of these doors.
Go out the back door.
And unfortunately, and people may say, oh, it was this reason, it was that reason, it was so many reasons, or it was this person or that person, or whatever it may be. But when it comes down to it, really spiritual life our spiritual life is really, we have to make the endeavor. Whether somebody does this to us or does that to us, or whatever. In other words, whatever difficult circumstance we fall into, is our responsibility to maintain our spiritual practice, no matter what. But I saw so many devotees come in and out, and they're having a hard time, following their spiritual practice, and also almost becoming like, almost in this category, refusing to follow the reformatory process, and losing desire at all. Because, someone may be fallen, right? Someone may fall off the path to some degree, but they still have the desire in with them. Okay, yes, I know what I'm doing is really stupid and foolish, but and I'm going to get back to the path. But then you get people who kind of fall away from the path, and it's like, they come up with all types of justifications. Oh, this is, I don't need this, or whatever it is. So it's different. So you have to be very careful, because it's a dangerous world, right? Danger at every step. And we see here that at the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada's mentioning that the Supreme Person of Godhead has no material body, and he could assume any kind of form, any type of body by his supreme will. So obviously we cannot ourselves assume any kind of body, right, by our supreme will. We can't do that. And in the last classes we discussed this idea of us not being God, which I think is pretty clear to everybody. So we don't have to go into that.
In case you were in doubt.
We don't have to go into that so much right now. But yeah, it is important that we understand. Okay, I'm not God, and Krishna's God, and in the process of our life, if we somehow or other, through the power of the material mind, have doubts that Krishna is God, or we become a little atheistic, right? then we need to, that means, I mean, whatever, there's many ways of seeing that, but one way of seeing that is that we may not be following the process in a particular way in which we are maintaining that realization that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is what I should be doing. So it's not a fault with the it's not a fault with the process; it's a fault with us. And in the next purport, Prabhupada's bringing up this idea that okay, you need a bona fide inquirer, a person asking questions. You need a bona fide speaker, and then knowledge will take place. So I apologize. I mean, I'm sitting here out of duty. So, in other words, I'm not a bona fide speaker. So I apologize. But you may be bona fide hearers, but I have to do this out of duty. Give the talk. I tried to get other anyways, but aside from that, this is a very big problem in the world. Actually, that there are so many religious people in the world, and so many spiritually, you could say spiritual people in the world, but they're not. There may be sincerity within them, and there is sincerity within a lot of them. But the problem is they're not qualified in many ways. That's a really big problem in the world. And our acharyas have discussed this idea of jana sangha, association with materialistic people, how we should give it up. And the examples given of the Sanskrit words called dharma dwajis. This is a category of materialistic people we have to give up. So this category is people who put on the dress, the markings of religious people, and everybody has their markings, whatever the Catholic, everybody has their markings, right? At the churches, they put on the suits, they go there, right? And here, whatever, put on the dhoti, whatever it is. So, but they don't follow. They don't follow. There's a little bit of hypocrisy there. And he's saying that those people should actually be given up. That association should be given up. So they're within, you could say, the religious spiritual circles, and they look, and they may actually do things, but there's hypocrisy there, and they're not following. So those people should be given up, actually. But interesting enough is that, and then he mentions, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur discussing this jana sangha, giving up association with people. He says that the people who are attached, he says the outcasts, the low-class people. He said the people who are attached to wine, women, meat, like that. He said obviously they should be given up. That's if someone wants to make spiritual advancement. That's quite clear. I hope that's clear to all of us now at this stage. But he's saying those people, those particular people who are attached to those things, if by association with the Vaishnav they start developing faith in Krishna and practicing Krishna consciousness, though they still may be sinful, those people, that association is actually desirable. And he says that those people, because they're coming from that background, obviously they have tinges of sinful mentality within them. Obviously, it's not you just like you join the ashram and then you're good to go, right? Some people think in 6 months or whatever, maybe I'm smooth sailing back to God. I'm not going to have any problems. They're like, oh God, a year passed, 5 years, 10 years. Oh my God, a few problems here and there. So there's some problems due to that lingering of material attachments and all that. And then he quotes the verse, right? Api chet saracaya bhajate mam ananya bhak. Even if the devotee commits the most abominable activity, But if they're fixed in devotion, fixed in their service to Krishna, they should be considered saintly. Of course, Srila Prabhupada mentions this isn't a justification that, people just do whatever, nonsense. Oh, I'm a devotee, Anyways, Kevin likes to quote this one story that I think he was there, or Sura tells it or something, but he was in Atlanta and there was this devotee, and he went out and he got really intoxicated, alcohol, he lived in the temple, and then he came back, it was like Mangalarti, he was like super intoxicated, smelling like alcohol, and just, it's clear the guy was drunk. So then, Sura said, I'm sure it was a problem that's been happening for a while. If you're like that, then, this temple is not an AA, it's not an Alcohol Anonymous place. It's, after some time, if you can't give it up, okay, fine, go to AA, get yourself better, then come back. So then he asked him, he said, okay, you got to go, I'm sorry. And then this devotee was saying, hey, you're committing Vaishnava aparad. He said, I'm a devotee, like that. It's Kevin quotes that. Sarah's like, you got to go. So it's not that, okay, this verse is used as, oh, we just, I'm a devotee, just do whatever I want. But, due to material, attachments, this and that, if someone commits that activity, but they're fixed in their service, they can be considered saintly. And then he concludes this whole essay he wrote in saying that the association of sinful people and pious people and good people is not desirous at all, is not desirable. But, interesting enough, it's kind of like, oh wow. But he said, but the association of somebody who is sinful, yet devoted to Krishna, that is desirable. So in other words, someone who's not, Paramahamsa, perfected, liberated soul, and then I could only associate, right? But even if they have, some, whatever it may be, then that is desirable association. And what to speak of somebody who's actually completed the course, you could say, or is getting close to completion of the course. That association is extremely desirable, the association of devotee. In other words, pure devotees who are, pure in every sense. Okay. That association is desirable. So the idea is we should seek out that association always in our life, and then we'll be successful, actually, if we seek that association. But if we don't, then what do we expect? I mean, this world is full of I was going to say it's full of fools. No, this world is full of like I was saying, dharma dvajis, the religious, externally religious people. It's just full of janasanga, full of bad association. Simple as that. I'm sorry to break the news to everybody, but it's just full of bad association. And over time, we see the news, it just becomes worse and worse and worse. And some of these stories are just like, I could understand, people, they want to hurt people, they're violent, they're angry, they want to go out and hurt people, whatever it may be. I could understand that to some degree. Of course, I don't agree with it. I think it's, sick, obviously, but I could, at some level, understand that. People can't control, and they just hate crime, whatever it is. But, when people start getting involved with children, babies, it's just like this. It means you're like, I don't even know what you call a person like that. Because all these you see on the news. I mean, I don't really follow, but people tell me of people, hurting children and babies. It's just like, what's wrong with you? So this is the society that the civilization is bringing up people like this. Of course, not everybody's like that, and not everybody's bad as that. But disease is a disease. Whether it's you're a big thief, small thief, a thief's a thief. So everybody kind of has that same materialistic mentality. So if we could find a good association, which we can, it's available, then we should be very thankful and very happy, and thank Krishna that he arranged that for us, and we should take full advantage. And also, we got Prabhupada's books. No one's barring anybody from reading Prabhupada's books. We could read Prabhupada's books. It's not against the law. We could do that. We should. Like we have Davis here, a nice example, reading Prabhupada's books. I walk back and forth, and I see him in the room, reading out loud. Hour passes, and then, all right, that's cool. He's reading that, and then come back, and 2 hour. Oh, that's great. It's nice because you're absorbing the messages. Prabhupada wrote the books so people could read them. So disciples could read them, so we could read them. You can just write them for put them on the bookshelf for decoration or something. And the idea is we absorb the message of the Bhagavatam. So that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, very scrutinizingly study the Bhagavatam. And we discuss it with devotees of equal mentality. And the questions and then the questions and answers will be very fruitful and encouraging. So this is very important because there's so many things that we could be absorbed in, even in you could say the Vaishnava world, right? So many things that devotees are discussing, day and night, for hours and weeks and months and hours and maybe even lifetimes. It almost seems like that. It may be lifetimes because they have such a strong desire to talk about these things, whatever it may be. Things they disagree with, or certain points, whatever it may be, fall of the jiva. They'll be discussing. Instead of going back to Godhead, going back to God. No, they'll just be discussing that for lifetimes. Or whatever the topic is. So.
Although fallen, saying we never fell.
Although fallen, saying we never fell, and then discussing for many lifetimes and not going to Godhead. So yeah, but we study the Bhagavatam in the essence of the Bhagavatam, verse by verse, purport by purport, not getting stuck on one or two subjects, which, so it's very important to do that. So does anyone have any? Yes.
Yeah, you said what you're reading. I'm sorry, I came late. I apologize. You're reading from an article about Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
I read earlier, and I was just quoting an essay on the Nectar of Instruction, Bhakti-siddhanta.
Okay. So you said that we avoid janasam, grossly sinful people.
Yeah.
But someone who may have remnants of sinful desire in the heart, but are trying, they're very good association.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate, explain it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the point. It was, there's pious people and then there's sinful people and he specifically mentioned who are bereft of Krishna consciousness, and he's saying those people are not desirable because it means they're bereft and they don't have any desire for Krishna consciousness, so you associate with them and you just get pulled into the illusory world of Maya. But for persons who are, you could say, sinful but are devoted to Krishna, they have some, they have interests. You could at least talk with them. Like devotees have the experience. They visit their family sometimes, and they don't have any interest in spiritual life or Krishna consciousness. So if you try to talk to them about Krishna consciousness, how long can you speak with them? And it just doesn't really work. Yeah, brick wall. And even spiritual life sometimes, just like universal principles, religious life, how long can you talk with them? Yeah, not even on their radar. And even if you do try to talk to them, they can't hold the conversation for too long. They want to change to whatever other topic, change the channel. Yeah. So if someone has these remnants of whatever sinful mentality, this and that, but they're devoted to Krishna, that means they have interest in Krishna, and there could be some Krishna katha, right? And through that Krishna katha, then yes, they could get more purified, we could get more purified. Of course, if someone's kind of like super offensive or something, then we try to, even if they're devoted Krishna, kind of try to keep them.
Your point is well taken, because then there's some nice Krishna katha and spiritual interest that they want to draw you back into or fan the flames of their materialism, then that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But they are people that can associate with it.
Yeah, or they want to go on books, for example. Can't go on book distribution. can't go on book distribution with some, you know,
They can help you with some service at the
Yeah.
temple. There's so many things.
yeah.
You can go to lunch. Okay, good. I'm satisfied.
All right, yeah.
What about those that like had a taste and are falling away? What can we do to help them?
Those who had a taste but are falling away. Well, we could try to encourage them on whatever level. I don't know. It depends case by case, because some people, like, they're losing their taste, they're falling away, and then they don't want to visit the temple. There are people like that. So with those people, I don't know, we could try to invite them to, you know, you have a, I mean, if I try to invite them to the temple, obviously that's not going to work, but you could invite them to your house, and, you know, feed them prasadam and talk with them. It may not be like some direct, you know, like, okay, now we're going to read the Bhagavatam or something, but just as a friend, or spend time with them, or talk with them, or call them, or this and that, try to encourage them, or try to connect them with someone who will encourage them. You know, because naturally the world can be a very discouraging place. You know, it's kind of, but so we have to try to encourage people.
I would use the criteria. It depends on which way they're leaning. You know, like Prabhu said about India. He said, they're right next to Krishna, but they're looking the other way. And he said, and you, about the Westerners, he said, you're a long way. We have so many nasty habits, but we're looking the right way. You know, we're trying. So you've got people who are sinful, but they're trying to get out of it. They know it's not working. They're happy to have the devotees association. They want to talk about Krishna. They want to engage. So they're leaning towards Krishna. And you've got another group that were nicely engaged or were serious at one point in time or whatever. And now they're leaning the other way. They're leaning towards Maya. And so you have to be careful about that association, especially if you're a young devotee. Because they, you don't really want to do that. Oh, that's not, you're still getting up for Mangalara to come. You're like tired all day long, you know. So they're a corrosive factor. So, you know, like I say, it depends on which way they're leaning. You know, we try to help them, we try to encourage them, you know, and because they are. Narada Muni says, having once engaged in devotional service, one's never is considered an ordinary conditioned soul. Because that person who's fallen away, again and again remembers the nectar of serving the Lord's lotus feet. So even though they're completely fallen and sinful, and, you know, give them a little prasadam, give them a little, because they were coming up at one time, and it's in their heart, they remember. But you also have to be careful. The devotees are all this, you know what,
Along that line.
Depends on which way they're leaning. Towards Krishna or with Krishna.
Along that line, one of the things we have to focus on and remember is Prabhupada's standard for what he said as criteria of someone who dressed nicely. And that includes all of these tiresome things of getting up from Mangalarti, chanting your rounds, and the Greek one, you know, following those archaic principles of the four archaic. Because there are many devotees who, for one reason or another, they couldn't maintain that, but they still like devotee association.
Yeah.
And they really like kirtan.
Yeah.
You know, they'll go to all these kirtan meals. And it's all very glorious. But you have to be careful to get drawn into that and drawn away from Prabhupada's standard.
Yeah.
And that's why a few years ago there was such an emphasis on publishing, you know, Prabhupada as a Acharya, because Prabhupada in the center being Prabhupada's standard of preaching was set up.
Yeah.
Because, you know, otherwise it leads to, and the leading is inevitably in this way towards Sadhya. Sadhya means easy. Take it easy. You know, what's all this? Come on, separation of men and women because of the 18th century. You know, without this standard, and he saw the need for that, and he insisted on that, despite, you know.
And we see the result.
Yes. But when you get a little bit loose, you know, but you find a welcoming arms, you know, in this looser group, the audience will be the good. But it's important to remember, you know, this
Yeah.
the gold standard.
Definition of archaic, when you say archaic principles?
Archaic means old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned. Okay. Old. All right.
Medieval,
Out of date. Yep.
I kind of have a question for you on that. Is that okay if I ask?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so just this idea of archaic principles, you know, as we progress in ISKCON and this Kali Yuga, you know, progresses, these archaic principles are going to be harder to maintain for younger devotees like Balaram, when he is a senior devotee. It's going to be hard. It's going to be more difficult now than it was. I mean, it's going to be more difficult then than it is now in order to keep establishing those principles. So
Why?
Huh? Just because it's already becoming difficult now for people. Like you said,
They're talking about introducing them.
yeah, and like, how do we just maintain that standard and keep people enthusiastic about it? Because, I mean, obviously we have to set the example ourselves, but it's something that like is always on my mind. But as time goes on, the principles that Prabhupada set, they're going to become so far out for people, especially when they're first getting Prabhupada.
Pretty far out. 16. We saw that.
Yeah.
You see the movie?
I've
I mean,
seen
Prabhupada
it.
came right in the midst of the hippie era, you know, and I mean, I lived through that. You know, the motto was, you know, unregulation.
Dogs run free, so why can't we?
The real key is our own spiritual strength. If we're a strong society and people are Krishna conscious, which means that they're happy Krishna conscious and eating, you know, ecstasy and so forth, then you'll be able to attract people who are, you know, how do you do that? Well, this is how you do it. That's how Prabhupada was able to install that. And it wasn't, and of course, you know, many did it for some time and then it go away because we had the Prabhupada left it. But the principle is always the same, is that you become spiritually strong, you as a singular and plural, and then you become a force for uplifting others when they come to you. Not that they drag you down.
Also, the assumption, I think this is what you're saying, the assumption that Kali Yuga, everybody just gets worse, and after a while you're just sweet dwarfs. You know? And whether they're trying to chew on your leg or something. But actually what happens, it's predicted in the Puranas, is that you've actually got two things happening. You've got, Prabhupada gives this example. You have a river going one way, or a stream, let's say. But often there's a cross current. You'll see a little eddy or a little cross current. So the main current of Kali Yuga is going down. But from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, it goes 5,000 years up, 5,000 year plateau, and then Prabhupada said, you can stay and see the fun. But that's what Prabhupada said. But there's a cross current, where people are pious. They're pious people. And it actually is like if you've ever curdled milk, you put in the lemon and then you've got or citric acid, you've got the pani or the curd, and you've got the whey. There are going to be pious people who look out at this world as it becomes more and more nasty. You think, gosh, there's got to be something else. This isn't right. And there's a separation. Prabhupada says as Kali Yuga progresses, there'll be crows and there'll be swans. So on one hand, like preaching was always and still is great in Detroit. Because the place sucks. And you know, you get nice young people. Chicago was always a great place to preach. Because people think, man, I don't want to work in the fender factory. Is this all there is to life? And then they see the bright-faced devotees and say, wait a minute. So it's not that the entire audience 100% gets worse and worse and worse. But within that general trend, there's also a cross-current of very intelligent, pious, nice people who say, wait a minute,